Welcome back to Spoiler Free Wrestling, everyone. I'm your host, Ian, and we are talking all the news in the world of professional wrestling. We've got Raw from last night. It was in the PPG Paints Arena from Pittsburgh. Plenty of happenings there as we are now just 4 weeks away from WrestleMania. Also, the first round of the New Japan Cup 2019 is in the books. There was one significant upset I'd like to talk about there, as well as there was a big match between Kota Ibushi and Tetsuya Naito, which some would say, arguably, if the brackets had been done differently, that could have been the finals. Shelton Benjamin was announced by Paul Heyman last night on Raw. Want to talk a little about that as well. And we've got SmackDown tonight. But before we get to that, I just want to ask, if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe and the like button to help this channel grow and be seen by more people. All right, so let's start off. Ronda Rousey has gone full heel at this point. So she was involved in a segment last night. She cut a promo, but she was cut off by none other than Dana Brooke. So now Dana Brooke cuts this promo on Ronda Rousey saying, "You're disrespecting professional wrestling. And I love professional wrestling. And I never get the chance to do the things that you do, yada, yada, yada." And then, of course, Dana Brooke runs in and gets her ass kicked by Ronda. And we probably won't see Dana Brooke again for weeks, months, who knows? Who knows when it'll be since we see Dana Brooke again. And so this is the story that has sort of emerged in the Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch storyline thus far. Is that Ronda Rousey is disrespecting pro wrestling fans. And this has played out a little bit on Twitter. She has doubted the legitimacy of pro wrestling. And many fans have been upset about that. One of those fans is likely Jim Cornette, though I'm not sure if he's actually commented on the fourth wall busting of Ronda Rousey on Twitter. But I'm sure Jim Cornette is not a fan. Generally speaking, Jim Cornette is not a fan of things that rub it in the fan's face that none of this is real. And I think Cornette's got a point on that. Because if I'm watching Game of Thrones, I don't want the actors to kind of wink at the camera and acknowledge that they're just actors. And none of what you're watching, experiencing, following really matters at all. Now, if you're watching a show like Saved by the Bell, and Zach Morris calls timeout, winks at the audience, and lets you know that this is all just a performance, it's a little different because, well, he's doing it in a comic way. And it's meant to be comedy. But why use the fact that wrestling is fake to build up a fake wrestling match? Some believe that if you belittle the thing that's going to take place by mentioning it's not a legitimate sporting contest, then why would I want to watch it? And the response to that is, oh, because Ronda is going to go off script. She's going to go rogue and really hurt Becky Lynch. Okay, then why watch wrestling ever, then? If this is the one match in which something meaningful could actually happen, why am I a fan? But apparently this is all just being done so that Becky Lynch fans are mad at Ronda Rousey. Well, whatever. What Ronda Rousey says on Twitter is not going to be remembered as part of this feud. It'll be like a throwaway thing. But ultimately what people will remember is what happens at WrestleMania. And this is going to be a significant WrestleMania. And not every WrestleMania is significant, but this one is. We haven't had a significant WrestleMania since WrestleMania 30. And before WrestleMania 30, it had been a long, long time since we'd had a significant WrestleMania. WrestleMania 30 was significant because it broke all the rules. WWE was forced to change plans. They wanted to go with Batista and Randy Orton in the finals, but the fans wanted Daniel Bryan so bad that they just hijacked the shows until they got what they wanted. And it was this choose your own adventure for the WWE universe where the fans really chimed in and said, no, Daniel Bryan's the most popular one. We want him in that role. And so Daniel Bryan wrestled Triple H that night, beat Triple H, and that earned him a spot to make it a triple threat for the WWE Championship against Batista and Randy Orton. And Daniel Bryan won, had his big WrestleMania moment. Wouldn't last, obviously injuries piled up for him, and WrestleManias 31 through 34 were the Roman Reigns project. Every one of those WrestleManias was designed to make Roman Reigns the new John Cena. I think it was WrestleMania 31, he was scheduled to wrestle Brock Lesnar. Seth Rollins cashed in the Money in the Bank during the match, as the fans weren't really, the fans weren't really behind Roman Reigns at that point. Then the next year, Roman Reigns defeats Triple H. Then the next year, he defeats The Undertaker. And what was last year? What did he do last year? Oh, and then last year, he lost to Brock Lesnar, but then would later go on and defeats Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. So 31 through 34 were the Roman Reigns projects. None of them really stick out. 30 sticks out because you had Daniel Bryan and you had the Undertaker being beaten by Brock Lesnar, ending the streak. WrestleManias 27 through 29. Those were the John Cena versus The Rock rivalry. 28 and 29, John Cena versus The Rock was the main event. 27 was John Cena versus The Miz with The Rock as the referee. So that was basically The Rock and John Cena as well. And then, the 20s, you got John Cena, you've got Batista, you've got Triple H. And then before that, you've got the Attitude Era. Before that, you had some forgettable WrestleManias like 13, 12. Sort of the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels years, and then you go back to the Hogan years. But this WrestleMania 35, sticks out from all of those. And part of it is that you have women in the main event. That's part of it. Of course that's part of it. Because not only are they just being put in the main event, they are the main event. They just are. It's the most talk-worthy, buzz-generating stuff in WWE right now, and has been for months. It has been arguably since Ronda Rousey showed up. And that's what Ronda Rousey did in the UFC too. As soon as she showed up in the UFC, as soon as she defeated Liz Carmouche, women's MMA was on par with men's MMA. And it's still like that. It's still, it won't go back from that because the importance and legitimacy has been put on those titles. The first one was put on the bantamweight title by Ronda Rousey, and everything just fell into place from there. And that's what's happened in women's wrestling in WWE as well. And that's significant. That's very significant. Now all of a sudden, instead of having one world champion, we've gone to 2 with the brand split, and now we've gone to 4 with the brand split combined with the women's evolution or revolution or all the Lucians. The women's Lucians. And so you can have Becky Lynch be the most popular person in your promotion. She couldn't do that back in 2016 because Ronda Rousey hadn't established that women could not only main event, but be the main event. Not just main event because they were put on last, but main event because they're the most buzzworthy thing going on in pro wrestling, which Becky Lynch versus Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey is. There's no question. It's the main event not because it was placed in the main event. It's the main event because it's the main event. And it's being placed in the main event spot because you gotta, because it's the main event. And so some fans are upset with what's gone on with Becky in the build-up to WrestleMania. Started with she tapped out to Asuka at the Royal Rumble. She's been beaten fairly unmercifully on episodes of Raw. And she didn't get a fair victory over Charlotte Flair at Fastlane. She required Ronda Rousey's interference to help her win the match by DQ. So some fans are like, way, whoa. Because some fans talk like that. Some fans say way and whoa. But then these same fans would offer up something after along the lines of, but Becky is our Stone Cold Steve Austin. Becky should be giving everybody the stunner and just plowing through everybody and winning the title, just like Stone Cold Steve Austin did. But Becky's not Stone Cold Steve Austin. If anything, she's Conor McGregor. And not just because she's a trash-talking, boastful Irish combat athlete. There's other reasons, too. In fact, Asuka, how Becky Lynch responded to being submitted by Asuka at the Royal Rumble was very Conor McGregor-esque. So the difference between Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor is Ronda Rousey, once she got challenged, once she was beaten, that was kind of it for her. Ronda didn't grow from the loss and become a better athlete. She moved on to something else, which is, hey, fair play to her. She had something else to move on to. And I think all of us listening to this are kind of glad that she did. But Ronda lost and then she left. Conor lost, accepted it, didn't make excuses, and dusted himself off, got better, and won the next one. That's Conor's story. Stone Cold Steve Austin's story is that he just goes plows through and beats everyone. That's Stone Cold Steve Austin's story. That's also Ronda Rousey's story, but it's not Becky Lynch's story. Some people want it to be, but it's not. Becky Lynch tapped out and then dusted herself off, and unlike Ronda Rousey, and much like Conor McGregor, got herself involved in the next match and won. And that's a little like how Conor McGregor, after being tapped out to Nate Diaz, said, I want Nate Diaz at 170 again. I want all the same scenario, and this time I'm gonna win. And he did. And that's Conor McGregor's arc. That's a big part of his popularity, is the fact that he did lose. He beat everybody, and he was this boastful guy, and he knocked out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. But we've seen that. We've seen Mike Tyson before. But Conor got beat, got up, dusted himself off, learned, got better, and then won the next one. That's Becky Lynch's story. And that's a good story. Don't get upset that you're not getting the Stone Cold Steve Austin story. Don't let that impede your ability to enjoy the story that you are getting. And you are getting a story right now that wrestling fans will remember for decades. This isn't like WrestleMania 7 where you have to go, what the hell happened at 7 again? Was that Hogan Slaughter? Yeah, it was Hogan Slaughter. And this isn't WrestleMania 23 where you're like, I don't know, was it Batista Triple H? Maybe I don't know. This is WrestleMania 35, and it's a significant WrestleMania. It is Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch. It is a new era in pro wrestling where women are on par with the men. And it's never going back from this. It's a clear start to a new era. And this is a storyline which will be talked about as much as Hogan versus Macho Man. And some people who grow up with Hogan versus Macho Man are going to be like, wow, no. Trust me, yeah. Because to the kids growing up watching this and watching it without expectation, like many older wrestling fans do, this is everything. This is the biggest thing in wrestling ever. This is so important. So don't watch it with expectation. Because if you watch it with expectation, expecting the Stone Cold Steve Austin storyline, where the most popular person is the best wrestler in storyline and wins all the time, don't expect that, because you're not getting that. And it's not, don't expect Hogan versus Andre, where it's Hogan's beating up everyone, and finally, has he really faced his match? Don't expect that, because you're not getting that. And if you expect something and you get something else, you're not going to appreciate what it is that you're getting because you're so focused on what it is not. And an example of this has to do with the Untold documentary, which aired on the WWE Network recently. And I haven't watched this documentary, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it's about the relaunch of ECW in 2006. And I experienced this as a fan, and it just broke my heart as a wrestling fan because I thought I was getting ECW back. I thought that promotion that was so awesome during the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars, I thought it was coming back, but it wasn't coming back. It was WWE's version of ECW. And what Paul Heyman says is, if you gave this new promotion any other name other than ECW, it would have been successful. But by naming it ECW, everybody expected one thing and got something else. So they weren't able to appreciate what it is they were getting. Don't let the same thing happen with this Becky Lynch storyline. You are getting a significant pro wrestling angle which will be remembered for decades. And if you're one of those fans focusing on, oh, it should have been Becky versus Ronda one-on-one, it should have been Becky winning all her matches into the main event. If you're so focused on that, you're going to miss the current generation's Hogan versus Macho Man storyline. All right, but when we come back from just a short break, I want to talk the New Japan Cup. The first round is in the books. Chase Owens and Juice Robinson clashed in the first round, and I want to talk all about it when we get back with Spoiler-Free Wrestling. Welcome back to Spoiler-Free Wrestling, everyone. And the first round of the New Japan Cup is in the books, and there was one significant upset that warrants us talking about. And I am, of course, talking about Chase Owens defeating Juice Robinson in the first round of the New Japan Cup 2019. Took him 24 minutes and 36 seconds, and an absolute war between Juice and Chase Owens. The huge upset. I think a lot of people felt, even though Chase Owens is someone who's always talked about as he's about to have a breakout year, he's about to really come into his own, I think everybody felt that this was a tournament that Juice Robinson could go pretty far in. I'm not sure too many people, when they saw the brackets laid out, assumed that Juice Robinson would be going out in the first round. But that's what's happened. And now Chase Owens actually seems like he's got a bit of a chance to at least make it to the quarterfinals, possibly even farther than that. Now, Chase Owens, he's a guy where he gets a surprising amount of pins in multi-person matches. And I'd always thought that, well, I mean, he's got a great package pile driver. And I remember a couple of years ago, he got like 2 or 3 eliminations in the New Japan Rumble as well. So he's a guy who you look at, well, they don't really include him in the G1. And he's not really in the title picture anywhere. So he seems like someone who would be eating a lot of pins in those preliminary multi-tag matches. But that's not really the case. He actually gets the pin for his team in quite a few matches. So there was always this kind of chance that maybe Chase Owens is somebody who could move up in terms of his stature and become a guy who gets invited to participate in the G1. I think he'll probably be in the G1 next year. Although he's also competed as a junior heavyweight as well. Not really sure he's fitting the weight requirement for junior heavyweight these days. So he defeats Juice Robinson. And this is significant for another reason as well. Juice Robinson is the IWGP United States champion. And normally you don't get champions in this tournament. Up until this year, the winner of the New Japan Cup has had the option of choosing which champion they face. That's not the case this year, however. This year, the winner of the New Japan Cup automatically moves on to face the IWGP Heavyweight Champion, Switchblade Jay White, in the main event of the G1 Supercard from Madison Square Garden on WrestleMania weekend. So the Saturday before WrestleMania. So with that news, some champions have entered the single elimination tournament. One of them being the IWGP United States champion, Juice Robinson. So now, if this was the G1 and Juice lost a round robin match to Chase Owens, Owens would then likely get a title match against Robinson sometime between the G1 and the Tokyo Dome show. I'm assuming, and this might not be the case, that Owens getting the victory over the IWGP United States champion, and nobody else is going to beat Juice in the tournament because Juice is gone. So that likely could mean a future IWGP United States Championship match against Juice Robinson for Chase Owens. This could happen at the G1 Supercard from Madison Square Garden. They might also decide to schedule the match as the last on the last night of the finals of the New Japan Cup as well. But we could possibly see Chase Owens in Juice Robinson in a sold-out Madison Square Garden the night before WrestleMania. That would be a pretty good match too. But let's run through the first round of the New Japan Cup. We'll sort of preview what the second round matches are going to look like. All right, so on the first night, you had Okada beating Elgin, Owens beating Juice Robinson. Okada beat Elgin on the second night. You had Chase Owens beating Juice Robinson, Yoshihashi beating Nakanishi. So now those two will meet, I believe, on March 13th. So tomorrow, possibly. Let me just double check that is the case. They just put up the new schedule this morning. Or maybe it was yesterday. I don't know. Okay, yeah. And so that's what's happening tomorrow. We will get Yoshihashi versus Chase Owens. That'll be the semi-main event on the 13th. And the main event will be Tomohiro Ishii against Taichi. And then the winners of those two matches will go on to face each other on March the 20th. Then in the kind of second group of 8, we had Okada defeated Michael Elgin. Mikey Nichols defeated Hikuleo, a returning Hikuleo, who looks much improved and much bigger. I mean, he grew his hair out, so he's not bigger, but he looks bigger. So that means Okada and Mikey Nicholls will face each other in the second round. Rocky Romero has said that Mikey Nicholls is a member of Chaos as well. So a inter-Chaos battle in the second round between Okada and Nicholls. Will Ospreay, also of Chaos, defeated Bad Luck Fale in the first round, and Lance Archer defeated Toa Hanare, so they'll meet in the second round. Will Ospreay versus Lance Archer. So if both Will Ospreay and Kazuchika Okada win, we'll get a rematch from the anniversary show in 2018 between Okada and Will Ospreay in the quarterfinals. And then in the latter half of the brackets, Tanahashi defeated Shota Umino. Taguchi filled in for an injured David Finlay and beat Tenzan, so now they'll meet in the second round. And Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Evil, so Zack Sabre Jr. is now 5-0 all-time in New Japan Cup matches. And Kota Ibushi defeated Tetsuya Naito. Now, Naito is the IWGP Intercontinental Championship, so if Ibushi doesn't go on to win the tournament proper, we might see Ibushi challenging Naito for the Intercontinental Championship. And I thought Ibushi versus Naito, those were two guys that either one of them you could have predicted to win. Of course, Naito won the tournament in 2017, and Ibushi won it in 2016. I want to say that's correct. I will just double check that it is. Nope, it's not. Kota Ibushi won the tournament in 2015, and Naito won it in 2016. Katsuyori Shibata won it in 2017, and Zack Sabre Jr. won it in 2018. So two former winners in Naito and Ibushi wrestling in the first round, and it was Ibushi getting the win over Naito. Could possibly lead to an Ibushi versus Naito Intercontinental Championship match, but Ibushi, who will meet Zack Sabre Jr. in the second round, still has a chance to go on and win the tournament and move on to main event in Madison Square Garden. Then on the final night, Colt Cabana defeated Togi Makabe and Toru Yano defeated Davey Boy Smith Jr., setting up a comedy match in the second round between Cabana and Toru Yano. Minoru Suzuki defeated Satoshi Kojima, and Sanada defeated Hiroki Goto, setting up Minoru Suzuki versus Sanada in the second round. That's the New Japan Cup. It all gets started tomorrow with Ishii versus Taichi and Yoshihashi versus Chase Owens. Then on the 14th, you got Okada versus Nicholls and Ospreay versus Archer. On the 16th, Tanahashi versus Taguchi and Kota Ibushi versus Zack Sabre Jr., which will be good. And then on the 17th, we got Colt Cabana versus Yano and Suzuki versus Sanada. So that is your New Japan Cup update. I also wanted to talk about Shelton Benjamin's role on Monday Night Raw last night. Now, Shelton Benjamin, for the New Japan Pro Wrestling fans on here, know that not long after Shelton Benjamin left WWE in 2010, he ended up in New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2012. He became a member of Suzuki-gun, was known as Shelton X Benjamin. And he wrestled with New Japan Pro Wrestling from 2012 to 2015. Then when Suzuki-gun left New Japan Pro Wrestling for Pro Wrestling Noah, Benjamin went with them. He was then scheduled to return to WWE during the brand split in 2016. However, a torn rotator cuff required surgery, and he was on the shelf for about a year. He returned to WWE in 2017. He started off as Chad Gable's partner and then was largely forgotten about. Last night, on Monday Night Raw from Pittsburgh in the PPG Paints Arena, Paul Heyman is cutting a promo on Seth Rollins when from behind, Shelton Benjamin attacks Seth Rollins. Then in a bit which was not shown on TV, Paul Heyman announced Shelton Benjamin as Brock Lesnar's assistant coach, as his former training partner. Of course, Benjamin and Lesnar were together at the University of Minnesota, where Shelton Benjamin was a 2-time All-American. They then were tag team partners together in Ohio Valley Wrestling. They even won the promotion's tag team titles together on 3 occasions. So Shelton Benjamin's career has been linked with Brock Lesnar since they were teenagers, really. Or since they were in university together at the University of Minnesota. Well, Benjamin's career seems to be linked with Brock Lesnar's again, now that we've got Paul Heyman introducing him as an assistant coach, if you will, of Lesnar's. It seems like Paul Heyman was trying to communicate that Shelton Benjamin is involved in the training of Brock Lesnar, is on Brock Lesnar's team. When Shelton Benjamin started his career in WWE in 2002, he was brought on to SmackDown, where Paul Heyman was the head writer at the time. Shelton Benjamin teamed with Charlie Haas. They were originally brought in as Kurt Angle's Team Angle, although Benjamin and Haas would later go on to rename themselves the world's greatest tag team. But that Team Angle created a lasting memory in the eyes of many. A very underrated period in wrestling history. SmackDown in 2002, the original brand split, and WWE handed the reins of SmackDown to Paul Heyman. You've got a young Brock Lesnar. You've got a young John Cena. You've got Kurt Angle teaming with Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin. It's a good period. If you've got a little time and you're like, damn, there's just not enough wrestling to watch. SmackDown 2002. It's good times. So will this lead to a bigger role on WWE programming for Shelton Benjamin? One can hope. He's 43 years old. But that's not even that old for wrestlers anymore. Once upon a time, 43, you were done. You're not done at 43 anymore. Especially when you look and can go like Shelton Benjamin looks and can go. Also, I guess he's on Raw now. I think he was on SmackDown before. Anyway, he's on Raw now. All right, but let's move on. We've got SmackDown tonight. SmackDown tonight will take place in the Nutter Center in Dayton, Ohio. WWE was also in Ohio last night, in Youngstown? Somewhere in Ohio last night. Anonymous, Ohio, where Sami Callihan is from, for a house show. And 2 matches have been officially announced for the SmackDown portion of the show. R-Truth is going to challenge Samoa Joe for the United States Championship. We saw last night on Raw, Bobby Lashley defeated Finn Balor to win back the Intercontinental Championship. So Finn Balor's IC title run ends after, like a month? I think a month. He won that title at Elimination Chamber, defended it once against Lio Rush, and then lost it last night to Bobby Lashley. So R-Truth will look to win the United States Championship for a 3rd time. He'll challenge Samoa Joe, who defended the title for a first time on Sunday in the Fatal 4-Way. He choked out Rey Mysterio. Then we've got Ricochet and Aleister Black are going to team up with the Hardys to go up against The Bar, Rusev, and Shinsuke Nakamura tonight on SmackDown. The Usos and the Hardys have been going back and forth on Twitter a little bit, teasing a match between those 2 legendary teams. And Mr. McMahon is said he's going to be on hand to address the Kofi Kingston situation tonight. And what else is happening? Shane McMahon is going to address his brutal beatdown of The Miz at Fastlane. If you weren't watching or had already fast-forwarded at that point, Shane McMahon turned on The Miz last night, seemingly turning heel in the process. Oh well. Then on 205 Live, Also from Ohio, we've got the semifinals of... Yeah, are both semifinals going tonight? Tonight on 205 Live, former allies. So Tony Nese versus Drew Gulak. And Cedric Alexander against Akira Tozawa. The two winners tonight will face each other, with the winner going on to face Buddy Murphy on the WrestleMania kickoff show. I'm sure everyone is super, super excited about that. Anything else we wanted to talk about here? Not much. Kurt Angle announced last night that he is going to wrestle his farewell match at WrestleMania this year. So looks like not much of a build or an angle to it. He's just announcing, hey, WrestleMania 35, this is your last chance to see me. All right, so we'll be back on tomorrow talking any news that came out of SmackDown. We'll maybe preview the New Japan Cup first round matches a little bit more as well. Thank you once again to everybody who has subscribed. Don't forget to hit the like button as well. I'm the Guy from Spoiler Free Wrestling.